Welcome to Fantastic People, where two friends are curious to learn more about superfans of really anything, movies, TV, sports, even Legos. I'm your host, Christian. Join me and my co-host, Regan.
What's up?
And this is Fantastic People. We've never done this before.
We have not.
So this is a first time. Regan, you want to give us an explanation of bio?
Yeah, so kind of a little bit of background, and that'll explain it as well. So a few months ago, about, I think, February, maybe March, you came to me with this idea. I said, hey, I want to do another podcast. You've got one already. I want to do another one. I'd like for you to join in. And that explanation was, hey, there's people out there in the world that are big fans of things, and it'd be great to sit down and talk to them. So as we began to plan and discuss what that really meant, what that looked like, it sort of morphed into this idea that people don't always open up about who they are. They don't talk about themselves, but they love to talk about what they love. So we decided that a great way to get to know people, whether that's, maybe hopefully one day big name celebrities or local celebrities, or just maybe your next door neighbor that you're like, man, I want to know more about that guy, but he doesn't really talk a lot. You get them talking about what they love, what they're a fan of, and you get some insight into who they are and get to know about them. And maybe you're just super nosy and curious because it's, again, a celebrity that that you just sort of treat as this higher person, and it's cool to just sit down and talk to them. So that's the basis of the idea. It's going to be open to really anything. Like you said, Legos, sports, movies, TV, what people love can be anything, can qualify them as a fan. And so we're open to whatever that may be so we can get to know the person. Because at the end of the day, it's about those people.
Yeah, I think everyone probably has something that they wish they could talk about more of. So you go to work and everyone asks how your weekend was, what did you do, or, give me these TPS reports or whatever, and it gets really annoying and boring and monotonous. Or say you have a skill that people value. So people come to you and they say, oh man, you are a leader in business. Talk to me about business. But what you really love are 90s baseball cards, and you never get to talk about 90s baseball cards. Well, we're the people you can talk to about them.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing too that struck me is that, we're going to be featuring people on this podcast, but one thing that I want to highlight and make sure that we continue to do throughout is, at the end of the day, everybody's just a fan, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that was one of the titles that we had thrown around as maybe the name of this podcast. Not very catchy, but it gives you a picture to say, hey, you know what? Whether you're Tom Cruise or, again, your next door neighbor, at the end of the day, those two people are just a fan of something. And when we have them in this conversation with us, it's not about, okay, well, we're sitting down with Tom Cruise, this big name celebrity. It's really sort of minimizing him and saying, hey, he's just a fan of something. Let's get to know this guy as a person. And then the next door neighbor maybe kind of pump them up a little bit. Say, hey, you're just a regular old Joe, but there's something you love and it's worth talking about and it's worth people hearing about.
Yeah, for sure. What, I think an important distinction to make here is, what do you think constitutes a fan? What is fandom? What does it mean to be a fan of something?
For me, being a fan can be leveled. You can be just a casual consumer, right? Mm-hmm. I don't really qualify those people as fans. I've seen Star Wars. Okay, well, that's great. You might know about it, but we're not here to talk to you if you just have seen the movies, because a fan is somebody that's probably seen it a few times, has really dug into it, knows a lot of details. They don't have to be a super fan. Of course, we qualify that. That's really in our in the description of our podcast, but they don't have to be this diehard, know everything there is, this intimidating person that nobody wants to talk to because they know everything, and they're going to make me feel like not as big of a fan. So a fan for me is somebody that loves it, whatever that thing is, knows about it, consumes it on a regular basis, and supports it too. So to give some clarity to that, just because you say, oh, I'm a fan of, say, the Backstreet Boys, but you've never bought a CD, you've never been to a concert, you've just heard their songs on the radio, are you really a fan? You haven't supported them, right? If you say you love Star Wars, but then you do nothing but hate on the movies, and you only saw it once, you never get it when it comes out on any sort of pre or post theater release, are you really a fan, right? Again, there's circumstances that go around why people can't purchase those things or spend money, but as far as I see it, you're going to go the extra mile to support that thing that you love.
Yeah, you're going to put time, effort, and probably something that's precious to you, like your money, into it.
That's a good way to say it.
There's definitely, the level thing is really important because I think there's a pride in being that encyclopedia level of knowledge, but that isn't necessarily the kind of person other people want to talk to.
Right.
I think being a good fan is also being a good salesman of that thing that you love. So being
sure.
able to go to a person who doesn't know it and say, hey, you should give this another shot, or you should check this out because of these reasons. And hopefully you can convince them, because I think what should be true about anything that we love is that this should be simple. Like, you can love something because it brings you pleasure.
Right.
Okay, why does it bring you pleasure? Well, at this time in my life, this was happening and I connected with it. Oh,
sure.
That's meaningful. That seems like something I can connect with too because of this similar circumstance.
Right.
Hypothetically.
Right. Well, and you touch on it there too. It means something to you. Being a fan of something, it means something. Okay. Just going to a football game, sitting down one time because somebody invited you, it might not mean anything to you. You're not really a fan, but I think we have a connection to the things we're fans of. Like you said, maybe it's something in our childhood, or maybe it's something we're going through right now, a particular song or a movie that touches us emotionally in a certain way, which again gets to the core of what I think we'll be talking about with people. They say, oh, I connect with this movie because when I was a kid, it made me feel this way, and I'll never forget that quote in that scene, and it really shaped my life. Well, they just told us about themselves, but really they were just talking about the thing that they love because they're a fan. It means something to them.
Yeah, I think that it's important to understand is one of the reasons we want to do this, and one of the things we hope to highlight is by understanding what a person loves, you better know that person.
Right.
So, number one, it gives you a connective tool, gives you something to have a conversation with somebody about. But two, it just helps you better understand them, what they've gone through, what they're experiencing, what they love. But so much of who we are outside of fandom spaces determine what fandoms we're in. And hopefully this is kind of an exploration into that. And a good example that comes to my mind of the kind of things I hope that we, come across as we, interview people is a guy I'm on Real Phonies with, Jason Hurt. Jason's earliest memory is watching Star Wars. Like his earliest memory is Luke looking at the two suns. And that is very informative of who Jason is the rest of his life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he, those are the kind of, when he tells that story, it's just such like joy and passion, and you could tell it really meant a lot to him. Those are the kind of things I want to hear from people as we have this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely agree, and that's why I think that when you presented this idea to me, I was 100% on board because. Likewise, I just love to sit and talk to people. I'm super introverted. I'm not usually the first one to go and introduce myself to somebody, but if I overhear you talking about Star Wars or Marvel Comics or FSU football or whatever that is, those are things that I like, but it could be something else, and I'm going to lean in, I'm going to listen, and I might have an opinion, I might have something to interject, and before you know it, I'm having this conversation with this person, really connecting with them, getting to know them, which is something I love to do.
So on that note, what are some things, you kind of hinted at a few of these, but what are some things that you consider yourself a fan of?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously I said Star Wars. If you spend 10 minutes at my house, you spend a few minutes around me, especially right now with it being very prevalent in our culture again, you're going to hear me say Star Wars. If I hear the word Star Wars 30 feet away from me, my ears are going to perk up. I'm going to run down and I'm going to get in that conversation. So that's definitely one. I look forward to getting many fans of Star Wars at the table to talk to, because it means something different to every single person. And that's the beauty of being a fan of something. It means something very personal to you. And so what that is to you can be different than what it is to me. And I love to pull those things apart. Another thing would definitely be, I love TV shows, period. But Boy Meets World is probably one of my favorite TV shows of all time. music-wise, it's a pretty wide sweep when it comes to music. But one thing that, again, if you spend a lot of time around me, I'm not shy about anymore. I was probably shy about it in middle school and high school, but Backstreet Boys, that's something that, again, talking about how it impacts you. When I was a kid, one of the first CDs that we ever owned was a Backstreet Boys CD, and I love music. I'm into music. I went to school for music, and that actually shaped my love for music, was listening to that CD. So those are a couple of things. There's tons of others that I could go through. I just love stuff. But Star Wars, Backstreet Boys, those are probably the two biggest ones.
If you're friends with Reagan on Facebook, everyone loves to remind Reagan how much he loves those two things.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in similar space. I do love Star Wars. I have Princess Leia like permanently tattooed on my arm. Some oddball, off-the-wall things. I'm a big fan of drum corps, Winter Guard International, Indoor Drumline. I like to say I'm jack of all trades, expert of none. So if I can sit down at a table and probably have a conversation with anybody, and I will never be the expert on the subject that we're talking about. But
for sure. Well, and that's good too. One thing I want to highlight too, you talk about being a jack of all trades. I hope to also learn from people through this, because there's perspective, there's life perspective, there's intellectual perspective, there's intelligence, there's wisdom, there's knowledge in these things that people love. And so to have the opportunity to sit down with anybody and let them share with me whatever's in their heart, whatever's in their head, is an exciting thing, because we get to hopefully sit here and listen a lot. And, we're going to have people on that we know nothing about what they love and what they're a fan of. Maybe, most likely, never even heard of it. So I look forward to maybe getting to explore some of these things.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
being introduced to things.
being introduced to things, and then maybe going and checking it out myself. And after having them shared why they love it, see if I get that same thing out of it, or if I get something different out of it. And that's what I hope for the listeners too. Lots of people are going to listen, never be on the podcast, but hopefully they come back every single week, or however often we do this, to learn something about somebody and something, and maybe experience that as well, and get to share in that community of those things.
Yeah. Before we close out, the only thing I kind of thought I would want to add, like little asterisks to keep in mind as we go through this, we're going to hit a lot of the same topics multiple times. And if you're listening and you're looking, you're like, man, I really don't want to listen to anybody talk about Star Wars again. I understand. But I would recommend give it a shot, because this is not about Star Wars as much as it is about the person who is a fan of Star Wars. Exactly. So what's really important to us to kind of hammer home is this is about people. It's about getting to know people and understanding people better. And I think we can all agree we need to be better about this, in our modern society and culture and climate. Talking to people who like things that are different than us, who are different than us, can only make us all better.
For sure.
And I think that's something we both hope to do with this podcast.
100%. Yep.
I think that's probably good for episode 1.
Well, I would just maybe, where can they find us? How can they keep up with new episodes coming out and what we're doing, and what we kind of hope to have coming forward?
So you follow us on our social media pages. We apologize, they're all different. We did the best we could. On Facebook, it's at Fantastic People Pod. It's a lot of P's.
Yep.
Instagram, Fantastic_People Pod. And then on Twitter, Fantastic People.
But leave off the E at the end.
No E. No hopefully episodes weekly. We haven't actually decided on day. Again, follow us on social media. Right. You'll see those. We have a guest list, but we're still scheduling some things. Yeah. So keep an eye out. That information is coming.
If you have ideas of topics you want to hear about, fandoms you want us to reach into and invite people from, or maybe things you love, or somebody that you just want to know. Maybe you have no idea what they're a fan of. Feel free to submit those to us, direct message, or you can just comment in our pages, or you can also email us at fantastic_peoplepod@gmail.com. Those ideas, we'd be happy to hear them. We certainly have a few that we already have on deck that we want to talk to, but as we go, we're going to need those suggestions. And again, it's about the people. So if there's somebody you want to know about, we don't want to talk to somebody you don't want to talk to and don't want to hear from. All the while, there's somebody that you'd really love to hear from.
Yep, so. For sure. The only thing I want to say in closing is thanks to Alex Edmondson for our artwork and Charlie Hadley for our music.
Yeah, we'll be sharing their information on Facebook
Yeah.
and those different pages, so you can find them for.
If you're interested in hiring them,
yeah.
they're always looking for work. But so yeah, thanks guys. See you next time.
See you next time.